So, it is President's Cup time. I was once a big fan of the event, especially late 90s, early 2000s. Of course, the internationals won in 98 with that great team they had. I remember the likes of Ernie and Greg Norman, Nick Price, Vijay Singh. And for the next couple of years, they certainly held their own. There was that draw at Fan Court in 2003. Remember, it was delayed a year because of 9/11 and the Ryder Cup having to be moved. But since then, it hasn't really been a contest, and it's getting worse, unfortunately, because if you don't pick the best players available, well, then it loses its luster. And of course, we know why. The majority of top international players aren't available because the President's Cup is owned by the PGA Tour. So they are dictating who's available or not to be picked by Captain Mark Weir. Have you ever, in the history of the world, in any sporting contest, heard where the opposition can dictate who you are allowed to pick? It's a travesty. It's ridiculous. I don't even have the words really to describe how totally and utterly atrocious that is. Anyway, just looking at the teams and who Mark Weir could actually pick. Pity that Tristan Lawrence didn't produce some of the performances he is recently, a couple of weeks ago, because now he's in the top 50. He is ranked ahead of two of the players that were picked. The same could be said for Cam Davis, who's 42nd in the world. He's ahead of Pendrith and Besadenhout, and Siwoo Kim and Mackenzie Hughes. I understand Mark Weir wanting to pick a number of Canadians. It makes sense being at home, etc., etc. And it is a tough one. You have to choose someone eventually, and you need to make a decision. Of course, imagine if Bryson was playing for the Americans. He would have qualified because of his play this year, but of course he's not eligible. Brooks Koepka, he'd obviously make the American team stronger. But anyway, why I'm actually making this video is because in my own mind, there is breaking news. There's been breaking news in my head here for a while. Why not have, or a major announcement, why not have an alternate event consisting of LIV players? We could call it, I've been going back and forth about what to call this, but considering he was or is the most successful non-American golfer in history, why not call it the Player Cup? I think that's appropriate. So you have, and it's easy qualification, top 12 on the LIV League standings, international players, top 12 Americans, simple. Then the winner of this year's event plays the top 12 Europeans next year. And whoever wins defends their title the following year. If there's no agreement between PIF and the PGA Tour, they should look at something like this. Now, captains. Greg Norman, obviously. How can you not pick him as the captain? He's captained the team before multiple times. He played in it multiple times. Obvious choice. Captain for the Americans. Well, he's still playing, but didn't qualify in the top 12 of the American players. So, Phil Mickelson. He should probably be the Ryder Cup captain next year. Probably should have been the Ryder Cup captain last year. So, another no-brainer. In terms of their assistants, Varner III and Perez just didn't qualify. So, I think they'd be good assistants. And then a third assistant, add a bit of pizzazz, a bit of American patriotism. John Daly. I'd love to see him as an assistant. Then for the internationals, Greg Norman's gone back to that 1998 winning team. Picked 1995 PGA champion Steve Elkington and another member on that team, 14-time pro winner Shigeki Maruyama. And then the third one is, for reasons I'll explain now, David Frost. 29 pro wins, 10 on the PGA Tour. Now you'd ask why I chose David Frost. He hasn't been really part of the mix. But LIV has not been in South Africa yet. Hopefully they'll have a tournament next year. But I think it's fair. Hold it in South Africa, and that's why I've got the South African link. Where are they going to host it? For those that know their golf course design, there's one golf course that is a Greg Norman design course in South Africa, and that is the Eye of Africa Golf and Residential Estate, just south of Johannesburg. So there'll be plenty of fans that will be able to make their way there. So the Eye of Africa will be hosting the Player Cup in a couple of weeks' time. Get ready for that. Now the teams, if you've been following LIV, then you should have a decent idea of the lineups, but let's just go over it. The Americans, from top qualifier to 12th qualifier: Brooks Koepka, Bryson DeChambeau, Taylor Gooch, Dustin Johnson, Matthew Wolff, Patrick Reed, Jason Kokrak, Brendan Steele, Peter Uihlein, Cameron Tringale, Charles Howell III, and Kevin Na. For the internationals, Joaquin Niemann, Louis Oosthuizen, Cameron Smith, Dean Burmester, Abe Ancer, Carlos Ortiz, Mark Leishman, Lahiri, Charles Schwartzel, Munoz, Herbert, and Danny Lee. And those are the teams. And Na and Lee, you would have thought, oh, what are they going to add? But if you consider how well they played in the team championship this weekend, well, they can certainly add a lot, because, I mean, how was the Ironheads' performance? Phenomenal. So that's that. What do you think of the tournament, the name, the captains, the picks, the concept? I mean, it could be a lot of fun. There's obviously guys on either team that play together on LIV teams. So that should be an interesting dynamic. I mean, obviously DeChambeau and Charles Howell are on the same team, but then Anaban Lahiri will be on the international team. So, and of course Na and Lee are on opposite teams. So that's it. The Player Cup in a couple of weeks' time at the Eye of Africa in South Africa. Let me know if you think this is just a pie in the sky, or Eye of Africa. Pie in the sky, I don't know. I'm delaying things here slightly. Let me know what you think.